Chris Brown was supposed to play in the NBA Celebrity All-Star game, but then he got uninvited in the last minute. You heard about that?
Yeah, they need to leave Chris Brown. That's a fucking shame. Know how many niggas that had domestic violence cases in the industry that swept under the rug? Like bro. I hate what they do to Chris Brown, bro.
Right, because this was what?
He's next under Michael, bro. As far as performing, as far as, bro, Chris Brown is that nigga. Bro, Chris Brown is a bad motherfucker.
You put Chris Brown above Usher?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can see the argument for it.
Yeah.
You put Chris Brown above R. Kelly?
Performance.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, performance.
Yeah, R. Kelly doesn't dance.
R. Kelly, he just lick his tongue. And lick the towel.
Well, yeah. I mean, Suge Knight actually talked about it. He basically said, there's a double standard where they're not forgiving Chris Brown, but they let Dr. Dre do the Super Bowl. And Dr. Dre beat up D. Barnes back in the day. You know about that, right?
I mean, I've heard. I heard.
He beat up a TV host named D. Barnes. It's a real thing.
I learned from your interviews, all this shit. That's, when I watch you, I hear all the Dre stories.
It's a real thing. She actually, when he did a documentary, he even brought her on to talk about it. Some real shit. It's not some made up shit.
Double standards, bro. Like, man.
Well, but I think also, really what did it for Chris Brown was the photo.
Yeah.
There's no photo of D. Barnes beat up.
Yeah.
And when you look at a lot of these other domestic violence situations, there's no photos. That photo was ugly. Like both of her eyes were essentially, swollen up. Had that photo not come out, I think that nothing would have happened at all. I think he'd be at a Michael Jackson level potentially right now. But that photo will that photo was a motherfucker. And look, I interviewed an investigator who was on that case on Chris Brown's defense team, and he basically said that Chris Brown was attacked first by Rihanna.
When they stopped her and took her in because of her injuries, Chris had injuries, but they weren't seen for several days.
Okay, because the story was that she was beating him up as well.
Yes.
How bad did she beat him up?
I haven't looked at the pictures, but I have his pictures in my file at home.
So he had bruises and scratches?
He had markings. Again, he's kind of I don't want to say a tough guy, but he's not a 90-pound weakling.
Right, but Rihanna's actually pretty big also. She's like my height. I met her before.
And it's a confined area. They were fighting in the front the only part of this rented Lamborghini.
Right.
And, again, just back and forth. Now, according to Chris, she started it and he was defending himself and kept telling her to stop and stop and stop. And I get it. Yeah. And, but the police, again, it's the same thing we talked about before. They arrest first and investigate later. And she had markings on her and Chris left the scene.
She put, people need to stop saying that this doesn't happen. A lot of times the girl is the aggressor.
Right. A lot of times you got to get a bitch off.
Yeah.
Or you going to have the black guy.
Exactly.
They got some bitches that punch the shit out you.
No, Chris Brown had marks on him as well.
They got a bitch that punch the shit out you.
Oh, yeah.
You let Christian Rock punch on your motherfucking head.
Yeah.
Boy, your head gonna look like you been in the room with Mike Tyson.
Have you ever been around Rihanna?
Nah.
Rihanna's big. She's bigger than you.
I was at a game one time when
I interviewed her back in the day. She was with heels. She was my height, and I'm 6'2".
Yeah.
And she's big framed. She's not a dainty little girl.
Yeah.
Rihanna could beat up some men.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel that, bro. I feel that.
So now it's up to the man to respond in a minimal way. I understand it.
Right.
But like for example, I interviewed Roger Bonds, right? He used to be Puffy's bodyguard.
Right.
And he told me flat out that he'd be in the car with Puffy and Cassie would just smack the shit in his face. And it would smack Puffy in his face. And then
Right.
he would jump in the back seat and they would start tussling and he'd have to roll up the windows and people would be watching. Not that I'm saying that that's right by Puffy's, you know,
Right,
but I mean,
right.
you mind your business and a girl punches you in the face.
Yeah, man.
Sometimes you just react.
When in relationships, all that, you gonna have them feisty type of women who, you know, they gonna do it. It happened to me a couple times, bro.
Yeah.
3, 4, 5 times, different women.
Yeah.
You just gotta know how to, you know, not inflict harm on them too much, but you gotta know that,
Yeah.
that little restraint move.
Yeah.
Sit your motherfucking ass down.
And you have to take a step back
Yeah,
and
you
realize.
ain't gotta punch him and do all that. You gotta
no.
put him in that motherfucking Boosie oosie.
Right. I've been in fucked up situations too.
Yeah, man.
But
A woman will
what
fuck you up, man. A woman will.
Right. But you do have to realize at some point that unless the woman has a weapon of some sort, they really can't do that much damage to you, not like a man. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, they might maybe bruise your eye a little bit, but they can't like knock you out. They can't knock a tooth out.
Right.
You know, so you have to kind of take that into account. But as a human being, sometimes when you get attacked, you don't even think about what happens next. You just react.
Right.
And then,
I don't agree with it, man. I used to get on one of my cousins' ass, bro. Like, he'll beat him. Bro. His bitch get out of line. He go put Timberland boots on.
Yeah. And then ultimately, it won't matter who started it.
Right.
He's gonna be the one getting put in handcuffs.
Right.